Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the dimly lit washroom, Timothy Parker's reflection was a daily paradox, his facial features appearing foreign, like a stranger's, captured in the mirror's silvered glass. A routine morning ritual, his fingers grazed his brown hair, short and stylish, yet still couldn't reconcile the man in the mirror with the one who lived inside. The dissonance between his appearance and essence had always plagued his existence. Timothy's work as a software engineer afforded him a life of creature comforts, but at the age of 32, he was gripped by a sense of disconnection from his true self. The weight of an impending work obligation dragged him from his introspection. Timothy's throat was encircled by the noose-like grip of a navy blue tie, his fingers struggling for the third time to secure the perfect knot. A dinner with colleagues felt like a staged performance, an act he had grown weary of. As if in response to his silent misgivings, a beacon of familiarity signaled from the counter, a text from his sister, Megan. She was his confidant, the one person who inherently understood his silent struggles and innate dissonance. A smile cracked Timothy's lips at the sight of her message. Wouldn't miss it. See you at 10. The next morning, sunshine spilled through the windows of Megan's suburban home as Timothy helped her sort through piles of clothing she no longer wore. What do you think about this one? Megan held up a cream-colored blouse with delicate pearl buttons. Too outdated to donate? Timothy's fingers instinctively reached for the fabric, feeling its silk texture. It's beautiful. Someone would love to have it. Megan's eyes lingered on her brother's face, noting the gentle way he handled the garment. It wasn't the first time she'd noticed. The reverence with which he sometimes looked at her wardrobe, the knowledge about fashion that seemed unusual for someone who wore the same 3 button-downs in rotation. Tim, she said carefully, setting down the clothing sorter in her hands. Can I ask you something? He nodded, his attention still on the blouse. Have you ever wanted to try on women's clothes? The question hung in the air between them. Timothy's hands froze, his breath caught somewhere between panic and relief. Why would you ask that? His voice came out barely above a whisper. Megan moved closer, placing her hand gently on his arm. Because I've seen how you look at them, how you know the difference between chiffon and georgette when most men wouldn't know either existed. Timothy's eyes remained fixed on the carpet, decades of careful concealment suddenly crumbling under the weight of his sister's perception. I've always... he started, then faltered. I've never had the courage. Megan squeezed his arm. Would you like to? Try something on, I mean. There's no one here but us. Looking up at his sister's face, Timothy found no judgment in her expression, only warmth and understanding. Slowly, he nodded. I have just the thing, Megan said, rising to her feet. Come with me. She led him to her bedroom, pulling open her closet doors and rifling through carefully hung garments until she extracted a knee-length blue chiffon dress with a sweetheart neckline. This might work with your height, she said, holding it against Timothy's chest. The color would complement your skin tone. Timothy's hand trembled as he touched the fabric. Could I? Really? Of course, Megan smiled. But this is just a start. If you're interested, I know a boutique downtown where the owner is incredibly welcoming. We could go together. The following Saturday, Timothy sat in Megan's car, his leg bouncing with nervous energy as they pulled up to a small storefront with a discreet sign reading, Emily's Boutique. Emily is an old friend. Megan explained. "She's helped many people in your situation. You'll be perfectly safe here." The bell above the door chimed as they entered. The boutique was empty except for a tall woman with silver-streaked black hair who smiled as she recognized a dinner with colleagues felt like a staged performance, an act he had grown weary of. As if in response to his silent misgivings, a beacon of familiarity signaled from the counter, a text from his sister Megan. "This must be your brother," she said warmly, extending her hand. "I'm Emily. Megan's told me a little about you, and I'm so pleased to meet you." Timothy shook her hand, grateful for the quiet dignity with which she greeted him. "I've set aside a private fitting room in the back," Emily continued. "Why don't you browse a bit, and I'll help you find some pieces that might work for your frame." For the next hour, Timothy discovered a world he had only glimpsed from afar. Emily explained silhouettes and cuts, fabrics that would drape well on his body, and colors that would enhance his features. "You have wonderful shoulders," Emily noted, holding up a burgundy wrap dress. "And a slim waist. Many women would envy your proportions." With each garment they selected, Timothy felt a growing sense of excitement. In the private fitting room, with Megan offering encouragement, he tried on a selection of dresses, skirts, and blouses. The blue chiffon dress that had caught his eye immediately transformed his appearance. The sweetheart neckline softened his chest, while the flowing skirt created the illusion of curves. "What do you think?" Megan asked, watching her brother's face as he stared at his reflection. "I don't know what to say," Timothy whispered. "It's like seeing myself clearly for the first time." Emily knocked gently on the fitting room door. "How are we doing in there?" "Come see," Megan called. Emily entered, and her face broke into a genuine smile. "Oh my, the dress was made for you." Timothy smoothed his hands over the fabric. "It feels right, but something's missing." "Makeup," both women said simultaneously. Emily chuckled. "I keep a small selection for just this purpose. Megan, why don't you help while I package the items you've chosen?" In the back office, converted into a small makeup studio, Megan guided Timothy through the basics. Foundation to even his skin tone, a touch of blush to soften his cheekbones, mascara to enhance his already long lashes. "Your eyes are such a beautiful green," Megan observed, applying a neutral eyeshadow. "This brings them out wonderfully." When she finished with a subtle pink lipstick that matched the small floral pattern on the dress, Megan handed Timothy a mirror. The face that looked back was both familiar and startlingly new. His features, softened by the careful application of makeup, seemed to align with some internal image he'd carried, but never fully acknowledged. "There she is," Megan said softly. Timothy looked up at his sister, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes, she is." In that moment, something shifted, a name emerging from a place deep within. "Camilla," Timothy whispered. "I think I'm Camilla." Megan squeezed her hand. "It's beautiful. It suits you." When they returned to the fitting room, Timothy, now Camilla, gathered her courage and asked a question that had been forming since they arrived. Would it be possible to wear this out of the store?" Megan beamed. "Of course! I brought some flats that might fit you, and Emily probably has a cardigan you could borrow if you're chilly." Stepping out onto the sidewalk in the blue chiffon dress, a cream cardigan draped over her shoulders, and simple black flats, Camilla took her first steps into the world as herself. The early autumn sun warmed her face as she walked beside Megan to a small cafe 2 blocks away. How do you feel? Megan asked as they settled at an outdoor table. Camilla considered the question, watching people pass by, some glancing her way, but most continuing about their business. Complete, she finally answered. Terrified, but complete. Their shopping trip became a weekly tradition. Each Saturday, Camilla would meet Megan at the boutique, slowly building a wardrobe that matched the person she was discovering herself to be. Emily introduced her to a hairstylist who helped her choose a wig with flowing auburn waves until she decided how to proceed with her own hair. "The auburn really brings out your eyes," the stylist had commented. "It's like they've been waiting for this color frame." 4 weeks into their new routine, Megan presented Camilla with a gift bag. "What's this?" Camilla asked, peeking inside. "A little something special," Megan replied. "You've been making such progress with casual wear, I thought you might be ready for something more formal." Inside was a stunning red evening gown, elegant in its simplicity with a high neckline and a back that dipped just low enough to be daring without revealing too much. "There's a gallery opening next Friday," Megan explained. "A friend of mine is showing her work. I thought it might be the perfect occasion for your first night out, somewhere a bit more sophisticated than our coffee dates." Camilla held the dress against her body, feeling the weight of the fabric. "I don't know if I'm ready." "You are," Megan assured her. "And I'll be with you the entire time." In the days leading up to the gallery opening, Camilla practiced walking in heels, perfected her makeup technique, and worked with her voice coach, another resource Emily had connected her with, to find a speaking register that felt natural. When Friday evening arrived, Camilla stood in front of Megan's full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The auburn wig had been styled into an elegant updo, her makeup was flawless, and the red gown hugged her figure in all the right places. The woman who stared back at her from the mirror was elegant, composed, and unmistakably herself. "You're going to turn heads for all the right reasons," Megan said, adjusting the simple pearl necklace she'd lent her sister. The gallery was housed in a renovated warehouse, its brick walls and industrial lighting creating a modern backdrop for the vibrant paintings. Camilla's heart pounded as they approached the entrance, but Megan's reassuring presence beside her gave her the courage to step inside. The space was filled with people holding wine glasses and engaging in animated conversations about the artwork. Camilla felt eyes turn toward her as she entered. Not with suspicion, but with appreciation for the striking figure she cut in her red gown. "Megan, you made it!" A woman with short blonde hair approached, embracing Megan before turning to Camilla. "And who's your lovely friend?" "Grace, this is my sister Camilla," Megan said without hesitation. "Camilla, this is Grace, the artist I told you about." The words, "my sister," sent a wave of warmth through Camilla's chest. Grace extended her hand, which Camilla took, grateful that her weeks of practice kept her handshake from trembling. "It's wonderful to meet you," Grace said. "I didn't know Megan had a sister." "We've recently reconnected," Camilla replied, her voice settling into the gentle cadence she'd been practicing. As the evening progressed, Camilla found herself drawn into conversations about art, music, and literature. Each successful interaction built her confidence. She sipped champagne, accepted compliments on her dress, and even ventured opinions on several of Grace's more abstract pieces. "You have an excellent eye," an older gentleman in a charcoal suit commented, after she'd analyzed the interplay of color in a particularly striking canvas. "Are you an artist yourself?" "An admirer only," Camilla replied with a smile. though I'm learning to see beauty in new places." By the time they left the gallery, Camilla felt as though she'd passed some crucial test, not just in being accepted by strangers, but in accepting herself in a public setting. "You were magnificent," Megan said as they walked to the car. "Did you see how people responded to you? Not as someone who's different, but as a sophisticated woman with interesting things to say." Camilla nodded, still processing the evening. "For the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I just felt like me." In the months that followed, Camilla's journey continued. She began seeing a therapist who specialized in gender identity, started hormone therapy, and made plans to transition fully in all aspects of her life. The day she decided to tell their parents was perhaps the most frightening step of all. She and Megan drove to their childhood home, Camilla dressed in a conservative navy blue dress with a white cardigan, an outfit she'd chosen carefully to ease the shock. "No matter what happens," Megan said as they sat in the car outside the house, "you are my sister, and I love you." Their parents' reaction was complex, confusion and concern mixed with an underlying love that ultimately prevailed. Their father, a retired engineer, asked practical questions about hormone therapy and legal name changes. Their mother wept, not from disappointment but from the realization of the struggles her child had endured alone. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" she asked, holding Camilla's hands in hers. "I had to understand it myself first," Camilla answered honestly. "And I needed to find the courage to be who I've always been." By the 1-year anniversary of that first day in Emily's boutique, Camilla had legally changed her name, grown out her hair into a shoulder-length style, dyed the auburn shade that had become her signature, and begun the process of gender confirmation surgery. Timothy's apartment had been transformed as well. The sparse, utilitarian space now held flower arrangements, colorful throw pillows, and framed photographs documenting Camilla's journey. The closet that once contained a row of identical button-downs now burst with color and texture. Skirts, dresses, blouses, and the red evening gown that hung in a place of honor. On the anniversary morning, Camilla woke to a text from a dinner with colleagues felt like a staged performance, an act he had grown weary of. As if in response to his silent misgivings, a beacon of familiarity signaled from the counter, a text from his sister, Megan. "Brunch at Emily's to celebrate? She's closing the boutique for a private party." When Camilla arrived at the boutique, she found it transformed. The clothing racks had been pushed aside to make room for a table set with champagne flutes and platters of pastries. Emily, Megan, Grace, her voice coach Daniel, and several other friends who had supported her transition stood waiting. To Camilla, Megan raised her glass, who had the courage to become herself. Tears filled Camilla's eyes as she looked at the circle of people who had helped her along the way. "I couldn't have done it without each of you." "That's not true," Emily said gently. "We provided guidance and support, but the courage was always yours." After brunch, when the others had gone, Camilla and Megan remained to help Emily return the boutique to its normal state. "I have something for you," Emily said, producing a small blue box. "A little remembrance." Inside was a silver bracelet with a single charm, a small dress, remarkably similar to the blue chiffon one Camilla had first tried on. "To remind you of where the journey began," Emily explained, "and that you now have the freedom to dress your truth every day." Camilla fastened the bracelet around her wrist, touching the charm gently. "I'll treasure it always." Later, walking with Megan along the same sidewalk where she'd taken her first public steps as Camilla, she reflected on the year's transformation. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't asked me that question that day?" Camilla asked. "About wanting to try on women's clothes?" Megan considered this. "I think the truth finds its way out eventually, but I'm glad I could help make the path a little smoother." Camilla stopped, turning to face her sister. "You did more than smooth the path. You helped me find it in the first place." The evening sun caught in her auburn hair as she embraced Megan, grateful beyond words for the sister who had seen her, truly seen her, when she was still struggling to see herself. "What's next for you?" Megan asked as they continued their walk. Camilla smiled, confidence in her stride that hadn't been there a year before. "Everything. A whole life as the person I was always meant to be." 6 months later, Camilla stood at the podium in the community college auditorium, adjusting the microphone. Her emerald green silk blouse complemented her auburn hair, which now fell in natural waves past her shoulders. The audience, mostly students and faculty, waited expectantly. "My journey of self-discovery didn't begin in a dramatic moment of revelation," she began. "It started with a simple question from someone who loved me enough to see beyond the facade I'd constructed." She had been invited to speak as part of a series on personal transformation, her story having spread through Emily's connections in the community. Though nervous, Camilla had accepted, recognizing the power her experience might hold for others struggling with their own identities. "The most difficult part wasn't the physical transition," she continued. "It was allowing myself to acknowledge a truth I'd buried so deeply I could barely access it myself." As she spoke, she noticed a young person in the back row, leaning forward intently, hanging on every word. She recognized that hunger for validation, for evidence that happiness was possible on the other side of fear. After the talk, while answering questions from audience members, the young person approached hesitantly. "Your story, it resonated with me," they said quietly. "I'm not sure who I am yet, but hearing you speak made me feel less alone." Camilla smiled warmly. "Finding yourself is a journey without a map, but you don't have to make the journey alone." She wrote down Emily's boutique information and the name of her therapist. "Start here. There are people who can help you find your way, just as they helped me." That evening, Camilla met Megan for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. As they were seated, the server addressed them as "ladies," a small moment of validation that still brought Camilla quiet joy. "How did the talk go?" Megan asked, unfolding her napkin. "Better than I expected," Camilla replied. "I think I might have helped someone today." Megan reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "Just as I helped you, and someone helped me understand how to support you. That's how the world changes. One person at a time." Camilla nodded, thinking of the blue chiffon dress that had started it all, now preserved in a memory box in her closet. From that first moment of recognition to now, every step had brought her closer to alignment, inside matching outside, reflection matching reality. "I have news," she said, setting down her water glass. "I've been offered a position with a tech company in Portland. They're fully supportive of who I am, and the role is perfect for my skills." "Portland!" Megan's eyes widened. "That's quite a change." "I think I'm ready for a fresh start somewhere new," Camilla explained. "Somewhere I can just be Camilla from day one without the ghost of Timothy following me." Megan's expression was a mixture of pride and sadness. "I'll miss our Saturday shopping trips." We'll have new traditions, Camilla promised. And you'll visit. The company has an excellent relocation package. I'll have a guest room ready for you. As they clinked glasses to celebrate this new chapter, Camilla reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. From a life of quiet desperation to one of authentic joy, from hiding in plain sight to standing in her truth before a room full of strangers. The auburn-haired woman who smiled back at her from the restaurant's mirrored wall was no longer a stranger. She was Camilla Parker, software engineer, sister, daughter, friend, and finally, irrevocably, herself. 3 years later, Camilla stood on the balcony of her Portland apartment, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Her life had expanded in ways she could never have imagined on that first day in Emily's boutique. Her career had flourished at the tech company, where she now led a team developing accessibility software. She had made new friends who had only ever known her as Camilla. She had even begun dating, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence as she learned to trust others with her story. Megan visited regularly, marveling at how completely Camilla had built a life that reflected her true self. The apartment was filled with artwork from local artists, bookshelves overflowing with poetry and novels, and a closet with the same red evening gown hanging in a place of honor, a reminder of how far she had come. As she sipped her morning coffee, dressed in a comfortable teal bathrobe that complemented her auburn hair, Camilla's phone chimed with a text from a dinner with colleagues felt like a staged performance, an act he had grown weary of. As if in response to his silent misgivings, a beacon of familiarity signaled from the counter, a text from his sister, Megan. "Just landed. Can't wait to see you and meet this Robert I've been hearing so much about." Camilla smiled, thinking of the man she'd been seeing for the past 6 months. Kind, intelligent, and accepting when she had shared her journey with him. Another step in a life that continued to unfold with possibilities she once thought beyond her reach. Setting down her coffee cup, she went inside to prepare for her sister's visit, grateful beyond measure for that first question asked among piles of discarded clothing, for the blue chiffon dress that had revealed her truth, and for the courage, hers and others, that had transformed curiosity into the authentic life she now lived.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!